Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Maria Di Simone. I'm the graduate assistant at the Office of Fellowships here in Northwestern. Tonight, we are interviewing our presidential fellows here with me on video. Heather, Lindsay, Bonnie, and Angel. I will let them introduce themselves in a minute. We are running this event tonight in virtual format, but we hope that this is going to become a good resource that you can play over and over if you need, and we will make it available soon. I prepared a few questions for our speakers tonight to discuss their experience in graduate school and how they came to their decisions to enroll in grad school. So we can get started, and I would ask you to introduce yourself first. We can start with Heather. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather McCambly. I'm a fourth-year doctoral student in the Department of Human Development and Social Policy. Is there anything else you'd like us to add, Maria?
That is great. Program, year in the program, your name. Oh, and what if we also add your research topic?
Yeah, great. I study the role of venture philanthropy or private philanthropy in achieving racial justice in the field of higher education.
Great, thank you. We can go with Lindsay.
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm a fourth year student in the Health Sciences Integrated PhD program in the Health and Biomedical Informatics track. The focus of my work is to study social determinants of health and to study how they change over time and to incorporate them into predictive models for cardiovascular health.
Thank you. Bonnie?
Hi, my name's Bonnie Etherington, and I am a sixth-year PhD candidate in the English department and a second-year fellow. And my research focuses on contemporary Indigenous protest literatures of the Pacific.
Thank you. Angel?
Hi, my name is Angel Escamilla. I'm a fifth year in the sociology department, and my research is on Central American minors and their migration journeys through Mexico on their way to the United States.
Great, thank you everyone. So I will kick you off with a first question tonight, and this is a general one. What went into your decision to apply to graduate school? Heather?
So I spent about 10 years working in the field that I study now. So being social policy, particularly higher education policy. And so I worked at more local, state, and national levels. And I had folks talk to me a lot about going back for my PhD. I did get my master's while I was working. And I always said I would go back for my PhD as soon as there was something I felt like I couldn't do or understand without further training. So for me, it was when I finally hit a practical wall in terms of the type of difference I wanted to make and feeling like I really did need some additional tools to do it. And that's when I decided to go back.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Sure. And so I had pursued my MPH in epidemiology and got that training and went on to work as the director of research at Stroger Hospital, which is the primary safety net hospital here in Chicago that's part of the larger Cook County health system. And I wasn't really enjoying my job, but kind of felt like there had to be more efficient ways to conduct clinical and public health research. And similar to Heather, I kind of felt like I needed the additional training and wanted to dive into a slightly different field, which is health and biomedical informatics, which focuses more on how we can use data and technology to improve healthcare and public health in general. And so I also was feeling like, too, that I didn't necessarily want to listen to doctors and other people tell me what to do for the rest of my life, and wanted to be able to serve as a leader in the field of health informatics eventually and in public health research. And so that's why I decided to pursue my PhD.
Thank you. Bonnie?
Yes, my answer is similar to Heather's answer in that there were questions I wanted to keep pursuing the answers to. And I saw a PhD as buying me at least 5 years of time to do the kind of writing I want to do and the kind of training that I wanted as a teacher, and to support causes I was passionate about. So basically the PhD gave me the opportunities to keep going in those directions.
I see Henko had a hand up.
I don't know if I was away.
I just saw it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, and so do you want me to answer the question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Or did you have any follow-up to anybody?
No, I think it's the same. I worked for a while in the same field, and while working with migrant children, I also found these questions that were no answer. So I actually ended up doing research on the side during the afternoons, and I was like, oh, I'm just kind of like, I think this is really good. So I decided to go to the PhD program. So it goes in the same direction than my friends. Yeah.
I see. So if we see you guys as a sample, how many of you had a work experience between your previous degree and your PhD? Okay, so everybody. Okay, so none transitioned straight from an undergraduate degree or master's degree. No. Okay. Well, that is the same for me too, actually. I also had some work experience. I'm in the theater department here in Northwestern. I do research on popular entertainment and immigrants specifically in the United States. And I also spent some time working in theaters, specifically management. And I felt my intellectual quests were totally, sidetracked by that job, and I was still curious to learn a lot, and I decided to go back for a PhD for that same reason. So yes, my second question was going to be master's first work. What was the transition? But I think we clarified that. It's pretty much the same experience for all of us. So I will go straight to my third question that's a little more technical, and it concerns preparation for PhD applications. And we know that there is a test component and some essay writing component, and depending which programs, of course. But I would like you to share some best practices, your own best practices to study, to prepare for tests, and to prepare for the essay writing part of the application. Thank you. We can start again with Heather.
I'm smiling because this is not going to be incredibly helpful to most people.
Okay.
I had my daughter, and I spent my 6 weeks of maternity leave studying for the GREs and writing my essays. And I took the GREs right before I went back to work. And that was my entire preparation and essay period.
Yeah. So I actually used an online resource to prepare for the GRE. I think I took 3 months to prepare, but probably the most intense during the last month. I used Magoosh, which is an online resource that I found really helpful, and it's all online and was actually pretty affordable in comparison to some of the in-person classes. And what I liked about it is that you can prepare for the GRE using their different tracks. And so I have more of a quantitative background, and so I followed the track that had more of an emphasis on the qualitative and verbal sections of the exam. And so I found that really helpful. And in terms of preparation to write the applications, I mean, I just really wanted to be able to articulate why I wanted to pursue the PhD. And so spent a lot of time having conversations about why, and finally felt like I could articulate that, and took a few weeks to kind of refine my essays and put into words that my main mission statement personally, and why I felt like the Northwestern program and other programs that I was applying to would be a good fit.
Yes, for me, well, I think at least in the humanities, students may put too much emphasis on tests when a lot of programs are doing away with them altogether. And I think it can be a lot easier to agonize over a small point difference on the GRE, when I think that time is much better spent on work on the statement of purpose. And I think get started on the statement of purpose early, expect to do multiple revisions, and let multiple people, trusted academic advisors, like a professor, read it and give them time to read it, to give you the feedback that it deserves, because it will need to go through, no matter how much you've thought through your project, it will need to go through multiple revisions, and that's also really good practice for when you're at in a graduate program as well. It's just part of how it is.
We have a hand up from Heather. Would you like to add something, Heather?
Yeah, you all are making me think I can be a little bit more specific. So I guess in terms of advice to folks, part of the reason why I was able to condense and kind of go relatively quickly was that I'd been working in university settings on and off, or with researchers for a long time. So I kind of had a baseline of, where I needed to hit with the GREs. And like Bonnie's saying, knowing that the qualitative kind of experiences I was having, or I had, and the essays I was writing from kind of rich experiences were what was going to matter more. So I wasn't in an agonizing place. So I didn't do Magoosh. I've heard good things about it, but I did get like the GRE book, the kind of doing some practice exams. And so I think a lot of my experience was focused on not over agonizing on the GRE score, but kind of hitting a good threshold. And then knowing that I had a really strong purpose for going to graduate school, and I knew I could write about that. And so I just kind of wanted to be a little bit more specific about part of the reason I condensed it was I had a really strong sense of what I wanted to do and how to say it. And so I think focusing on that and not agonizing on scores is a really good piece of advice.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Hand up from Lindsay before we give the floor to Angel.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I remember having a conversation with the administrative team of my program, even before I started studying with the GRE, just to get a feel of kind of how important the GRE actually was. And I think because I applied to an informatics program, which is pretty quantitative, they made it very clear that they wanted you to hit above a certain threshold on the exam. And I definitely don't think all programs are like that, as we're hearing now, but I think maybe having an initial conversation could help prior to the studying process and realizing kind of where you need to hit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Angel?
Yeah, I bought a huge package from Kaplan because I felt that I needed. I'm foreign and studied in a non-speaking English country. I felt that it was really behind others. So I studied during the afternoons while working. And I also felt that I was, according to the pre-test, I was doing good in the math section, but bad in the verbal section. So I focus a lot on the verbal section. But there is also the goal statements. Each university has different like essays that they ask for. So before even applying, I had a conversation with my mentor, which is a professor in sociology from other university, and she walked me through it. She told me, like, you need this score and this score, you need this essay, you need to translate your thesis, your undergraduate thesis, and also you need this paper. So she told me, like, you need all these things, which was very useful for me because I was very naive on that. But she also told me something that I found very useful. because she was an insider, she told me like how each department was different, you know. So she told me like, oh, like the type of work that you do fits more in these universities, right? If you want to get in these other universities, you have to shape it or have to do something different, which was very interesting. So I recommend you to find a mentor, find someone who is, I mean, fortunately, our school is really good and across disciplines. So find someone who can tell you, who can match the type of research that you want to do with the department, you know, like I think that's very, very useful. In my case, it works very well because this is a great department for the type of research that I do. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, from my own experience, I also spent more time with statement of purpose rather than preparing for the tests. The GRE, I got my book. I studied on my own. I didn't need to hit a threshold, luckily, so I did well enough. Didn't need much expert preparation. But one thing that I am going to plug in here shamelessly for the students who will see this recording, even after you graduate from Northwestern, kids, you can come back to us as an alum, and use the services of the fellowships office. So there is people here who can guide you, mentor you, even help you edit the essays. And this is great because on one hand, the insider's knowledge of your professors who can tell you, as Angel was saying, which departments may be the best fit for your interest in research. That's definitely something fundamental. But probably those professors won't read and give you, close feedback on, your language and grammar or form. This is something that you can find here, even after you graduate and even after a few years after you graduated. So, yeah. Anything else on this topic? Shall we move on? Okay, so my next question is, now we assume the applications are out. We have started hearing back. We got some interviews and then we got some offers. And in the best case scenario, we got more than one. How do we decide where to go? What went into your choice to come to Northwestern, and what were the things that you were considering, that you were waiting out in this decision?
I'm gonna let somebody else get started this time, just to change it up.
Can we please invert the order, maybe?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, please. Okay, great. Angel, would you like to get us started?
Okay. Yes. So I sent my applications and then I went to travel. So I forgot about the rough time that I had writing this application. And then I got 3 offers, and but I have to say that I applied simultaneously with my wife. So my wife wanted to go to law school. So we were looking for places that were can you hear me?
You're muted. Now we can.
We can hear you again.
Oh, sorry.
You're back.
Sorry. So, yeah, so we applied together at places that were that had both law schools and sociology departments, and we got 3 different offers in 3 very different places. And so we visited the 3 places. And what I like about Northwestern, or like, there were 2 things that motivated me to come here. 3 things. First, the funding, which is really good compared to other schools. Second, that it is a good fit in the sense that they do the type of research that I do, and they have funding for qualitative work, which is really good. But also something that was very interesting for me is like in the other place that I was thinking of, which is higher ranked than Northwestern, and I felt like they didn't read really well my application. I feel like the meetings that I had, they were like, okay, you're good, I'm glad. But here, when I met a professor and an undergrad student, they asked me questions specifically about my essay, which is an essay that I wrote for my application. And I really felt that that was a key difference, because I was like, oh, so you actually read my paper. So it's not just like random BS that you're throwing, right? I mean, they actually asked me questions. I said like, oh, what do you think about this? Or like, what do you mean in this sentence? And I was like, this is really cool. So I feel like if you are going to a place, make sure that I don't know. I feel like if they like what you do, they might take the time to read it. And sometimes they can be very critic. Like they were with me, they were saying like, this is not that good. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm here. So yes, I recommend you to go to a place where you can have like meaningful interactions with the department. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's really great advice. Bonnie?
So I was in a position of, I had to make a decision about which grad school to go to from overseas. I was not able to go to any visiting weekends because my green card was in process. And when you apply for that overseas, you're not allowed to travel to the US during that time. So I was really lucky. I got 7 offers, and the first offer was from Northwestern. Basically, I ultimately made the decision on 2 factors. One, the funding. The other offers, I could have made them work, but this one I saw being the best option for myself and my partner. And second of all, this also goes with what Angela was saying in terms of I felt like my application was truly seen by the department. I had very good interactions with them despite being in another country thousands of miles away. They were very responsive to emails, and I just felt like I could come somewhere where I could have community, and that was really important to me. So yeah, those are my 2 main reasons. It was very nerve-wracking making a decision to come to a place which I'd never seen before, but I wouldn't have regrets about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I was looking for, my background, as I mentioned, is in epidemiology, and I was interested in adding that kind of informatics training on top of that. And so I was really looking for an applied and interdisciplinary program. First being interdisciplinary because I didn't want to lose my previous training. And also I was looking for a program that valued different types of students. Going in, I wasn't necessarily committed to going down the academic career path. And so I wanted a program that allowed me to have different types of options once I was done, whether that's in academia or outside. And I really felt like from the beginning, the program made it clear that they weren't pushing one direction or the other. Also, the funding was a pretty big piece of my decision as well, just like Bonnie.
Bonnie, we have a raised hand from you.
Yes, I just wanted to add on to what Lindsay's saying about interdisciplinarity. That really attracted me to the program because my work does tend to dabble in multiple disciplines. And to also add on to the bit about the funding, don't go anywhere where you're going to go into debt. That is like the most important thing. It's not worth it. If you think that you can pay off, there's just not enough jobs, so you have to go somewhere where you get paid an adequate amount to sustain yourself. And that's honestly the biggest piece of advice I have.
That's a useful one. Lindsay, yes?
Yeah, one more thing that I wanted to mention is not only did I want the interdisciplinary training in terms of coursework, but I wanted to be able to kind of build an interdisciplinary team. And so on my dissertation committee, I have 2 epidemiologists, a cardiologist, and also a data science informatics person. And I know that some programs I was looking into, it seems like you had to build a relationship and apply to the program while knowing which research lab you wanted to go into right from the beginning. And I like that Northwestern offered the flexibility to be able to kind of rotate with different groups and figure that out as you go, and to be able to have a committee of very different types of people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you. Heather?
Yeah, I won't repeat anything that's been covered so far, but I'll just add, kind of going back to the concept of fit. I knew that I was going to graduate school because I was trying to I wanted to address some social problems and that were really important to me and that I felt like were important to communities I care about. And so to that end, it was important that I wanted a program where if I wanted to stay in academia, if I wanted to go the faculty route, that I was getting the kind of training I would need to do that, to be competitive in the types of departments I'd want to work in. But I also didn't want to be in the type of program where the faculty route would be the only route available to me. So I was looking for the mix of academic and applied. And so I, that's kind of the main reason I chose the department and the program that I did, was that there are a lot of routes after the PhD that I can take, and that's an important thing to me. And then the second thing I'll say is about community. We heard that a little bit ago, and just emphasizing that community is hugely important and is the thing that really sustains me in graduate school. And I don't think I actually asked enough questions about that coming in. So while I have found community and I'm really satisfied with what I've found, I realized that I wasn't asking the right questions of current graduate students to have been sure about that. So if I could go back, that's something that I would have been a lot more curious and inquisitive about.
Thank you. Actually, why don't we stay on this topic? Because this is actually a question I had for all of you. What did you wish you had known kind of question. And I can follow up and get us started there by saying that similarly to other people in this group, I also applied from overseas. I was not able to visit. I did not speak with any other graduate student in the program because that was not part of the interview process. Now it is in my program, and because I asked for it, when I came, I simply proposed that as the students, international students get interviewed by the faculty, why can they also have a chat with other students on Skype? And that's very helpful because some questions you just don't get to ask the faculty. And those are questions related to community. Those are questions related to, is the funding actually enough, especially if you come from a country where, the costs of living are different. I had no idea. For me, it looked like a lot of money.
A lot.
Yeah. But then life costs differently here. And another thing that I was thinking a lot about, because I come from a European system where PhDs are much shorter. On one hand, I was thinking, well, if I can finish earlier, that is better. But then on the other hand, going back to the fit topic and interdisciplinarity, I really needed to take time to do the coursework and do the exams and spend 2 years just exploring things, because I was moving fields and I felt like I didn't have enough background on all the different subfields that I wanted to explore. And so I ended up choosing to take longer in a PhD in the United States. That's at least 5 years, as compared to a PhD in Europe that it's 2 to 3 years. And so to go back to the question of what I wish I had known, I really wish I had the opportunity to speak with other students currently enrolled in the program. That is my that is my 2 cents there. What do you think? We can start with Angela again.
Okay. Well, I think my department, I mean, I think it was really good in letting me talk to other graduate students. So actually, yeah, I met a lot of them. I have to say that for me, community inside was not what I was looking for. So I was not really thinking about it. I was thinking more about, yeah, funding research. However, I think that something that I wish I had known was more about what else can we do with our PhD. I think that my department is really focused on research, and puts a lot of pressure on you, and sometimes it can be a little unrealistic to tell you that everybody gets a job in academia, right? And then when you realize, when you see the cohorts that are ahead of you, they're like, that's not necessarily true, right? So I wish they will like set other pathways for people who do not want to do or do not want to pursue, or like they realize, I don't know. Now we are doing it. Now we are having these conversations when we have other types, when we bring sociologists that are doing non-academic work. But when I was applying, that was not an option, and I had no idea. I was like, okay, so this is very easy. You just go do research for 5 years, and somehow you get a job according to their charts. But that is not true. So this is something that is a lot of work. It's very frustrating. It's very exhausting, and on top of it, you have uncertainty. You don't know whether you are gonna get something or not. So I think that, yeah, something that I wish I had known is more about the future and like what are the options. Yeah.
Thank you. We have a new guest tonight. Hi, Luis.
Hello, I do apologize. This day has been considerably more complicated than I really expected.
No problem. You're still in time to share some of your insights. Thank you for joining us. I don't know if you heard the question that we're discussing right now, but why don't we, since you just jumped in, why don't you just introduce yourself, and then we can keep going with other folks on this topic, and you can just join us as the last speaker for this round. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Again, I do apologize. So my name is Luis Fernando Amaya. I'm a 5th year PhD student in music composition. I'm from the city of Aguascalientes in Mexico, in central Mexico. What else would you want me to talk about? Maybe
if you could share your research topic.
Yeah. So in music composition, we have to do kind of like a bipartite type of dissertation. So the main aspect of it is a dissertation piece, a work, and then like a shorter writing that can be related to the dissertation in different ways. So my dissertation piece is an opera called Árbol de Bocas, like Tree of Mouths. And it's an opera that is trying to question the idea of personhood and who gets to be granted that category of personhood. And it's very much influenced by a lot of thought from many indigenous cultures in the Americas, literally from Canada to Chile. And all of them share this idea that the category of person is not only human. So what better genre to do than a very like anthropocentric genre as opera, in which, so in this opera, the only character is a tree and is not played by one person, but actually by 32 people, musically speaking, that actually are not even in scene. And my other, so the text portion of the dissertation is an analysis of my piece and a couple other pieces, one by Australian composer Lisa Lim and the other one by the US composer Erin Gee, in which they kind of also have certain aspects in which humans can be taken, how can I say this? Non-human others are brought into the context in a dialogue between humans and non-human others is questioned and problematized and also explored through a different lens. So that's my dissertation right now.
That's really interesting. Well, okay. Will you perform the opera one day?
Yeah, actually, I have to have like a doctoral recital,
Okay.
and seems like the date is May 28th of 2021, if it's not moved.
Oh, that's, well, okay. So we have so many different types of work here in this virtual room tonight. Thank you all for sharing. Luis, right now we are on the question of what you wish you had known before.
Yeah, I saw the last one.
Yeah, no, well, actually, we have this one and the second to last. I haven't discussed that yet. We just, flew in. You know, the discussion went there, and Angel has shared his piece already. We can hear from Bonnie maybe, and then we can go to Lindsay and finally Luis.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yes, so I wish I had known how much my perspective regarding failure, rejection, and critique would need to change. So if you're applying to grad school, you're probably used to being at the top of your class. You're probably used to praise from academic mentors. When you get to grad school, rejection, failure, and critique are very much a part of learning. And this doesn't mean your work is bad. This means someone's invested in making it better, and this means that, well, you're just going to have a lot of rejections on the way underneath every success. So my mindset had to change there pretty quickly. I learned that everyone has imposter syndrome, that's normal. And I think one of the best ways I learned to deal with that is just the knowledge that, like, you're a whole person. Academia is just one part of your person. Your research is just one part of you. So that when you do encounter inevitable failure and rejection, that you don't feel like you've lost everything that makes you you. So I always encourage new graduate students to actually pick up a hobby, which may seem like, oh no, we don't have time to do a hobby. But it really helped me when I started doing that, in addition to doing work with communities and making relationships with communities outside of the institution, to like continue feeding those parts of myself. And I highly recommend crochet or embroidery as that hobby.
Thank you, Bonnie. Lindsay?
Sure, yeah. So first thing is I wish I had asked current students about the benefits and challenges of being in a newer program. When I applied, I think there were only 3 classes ahead of me. There actually hadn't even been, or I think when I first started, there had been 1 graduate. And so that has its own benefits and challenges that I wish I had known. One being that you definitely have to be able to advocate for yourself and be able to ask for help when you need it. And I was already kind of that type of person, but I think for people that don't have the familiarity with being in those types of situations, it may have been really difficult because in a newer program, there's a lot of things going on. There's not as much structure and not as much structured check-in as well. And so you have to be able to speak up when you need help. And like Bonnie, I think it's really critical to find, I wish I had known that it was so critical to find a balance between the work and also everything else. I definitely had to find ways and other outlets for fun and relaxation. It's really tough on your mental health when you're constantly receiving positive criticism, but criticism nonetheless, and also when you're comparing yourself to others. And I felt that especially being in an interdisciplinary program, because you aren't necessarily an expert in any one thing. You're kind of the connector between a bunch of different fields. And so being able to recognize that that's valuable was really important, and being able to find ways to have an outlet for other things to make sure that I was taking care of myself personally.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Lindsay. We have two follow-ups, Bonnie and Angel, before we get to Luis. Bonnie?
Yes, I just wanted to second everything Lindsay was saying about asking for help. I didn't always do that in the beginning. I was used to being fairly independent, but once I realized that asking for help would really make my life a lot better, then I started doing that. And get a therapist. I think every graduate student should see a therapist regularly. Well, actually, everyone should if they can. And we do have some of those resources available at Northwestern, so take advantage of them when you can, because your mental health matters.
Yeah, well, this is a good point also to weight the choice, which program, which school to enroll to. If there are services like we have at Northwestern, that's definitely a plus. Not all the schools have resources for mental health like we do. Some may have better ones. But yeah, that's also something to take into account. So thank you for mentioning that, Bonnie. Angel?
Oh, no, that I do agree that, yeah, everything what they say. I probably will add something that I tell my friends in my first and second and third years, which is, and my also 70 years, all of them, which is like, I mean, PhD is it's not about speed, it's about endurance. I keep telling them that. I keep telling that this is not about speed at all. If you check the data, you will find out that this is about being kind of resilient, right? And like kind of like learn to deal with rejection, learn to deal with like R&Rs, rejection from journals, like people trashing your ideas, you being unsure about what are you thinking, and you not being able to read as much as you want to, you being guilty for having fun and a Saturday night, and just like all these kind of things that are, like pass through your mind. So I always tell them, like, you have to give you time, because again, this is not about finishing in 4 years. This is about being healthy and doing some quality work over time, and that takes time. Good research takes time. So I always tell them, it's not about speed, it's about endurance. So keep that, whoever you are, keep that in your mind. It's about endurance. This is about being stubborn.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Angel. Luis, here the question again is what you wish you had known.
I think that for me is maybe not so much related to my program or for the school, but as an international student, I really wish I had known many things about kind of like the society that I was coming in. To me, it was really, there were many things that were very surprising. And it's interesting because like I'm from Mexico, like we are very close to each other and we should maybe know more about each other, but turns out that we really don't. So for example, things like the racial dynamics that are that take place in this country and in different places is something that I wish I had known before. I really had no idea of how different and complex they are here, and how kind of like I was walking into being something that I had never been before in my country, right? Things like this, I think it would have been really good for me to know that beforehand. What else? I think also something more related to the school, but is very department conditioned, is that in the music composition department, we usually, like, we're already like composers, semi-professional, we're kind of professional composers while we're doing the PhD before it was the MA, which is Doctor in Musical Arts, which is pretty much the same, just that the funding is better now. But it was important to me to realize after a while that it was actually like doing well in school was as important as doing well outside. Because as Angel said, it's very probable that most of us won't get into an academic position, at least when we graduate. People are getting jobs a bit older than most people are graduating with more experience. You're really competing against people who've had like 20 years of career or something. So that's something that it would have been nice to know before. Like, it's okay to actually focus a lot of your energy in things that are not school. And that, but I mean, of course, like what Lindsay and Bonnie said about like personal health and mental health, yes, but also in terms of work, it's also good to dedicate things to energy to things that are not from school.
Yeah, well, I can see a lot of what you said in my own field, because in theater, some students starting PhDs just stop making theater because of all the writing and reading and thinking, but making theater is still part of your development and your work, and that's especially for fields that involve some creative practice. And again, in my program, we don't have a making a practice component like the composition in music, so we're not even expected to make theater anymore once we start here, but that doesn't mean we should stop.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so we have 5 more minutes. If we can just do a quick round of one thing that makes you happy, fulfilled, about being a PhD right now. It can be anything, work related, community, interest in any facet of your PhD life. So one thing that makes you feel fulfilled, and one thing that you still would define as a challenge. And I know these are questions that would require like a few seconds to just gather some thoughts. So I'm gonna call Enko out for first, but if you don't, if you wish to pass it on to someone, just please feel free.
Okay, so something positive, something that I love about so far. I love to have the chance to see how complex is the world, how complex the world is. Sorry, like I think the having the time being paid to explore these ideas, and be in contact with other people that are doing an amazing job, definitely expands and makes you I don't know. In my case, I think makes you very humble about everything. So now every time somebody wants facts, I tell them like, there is no yes or no. Everything is a maybe. Everything has caveats, and that's what I like about research. That is not a true. There is no about facts. It's about it's a constant pathway, constant challenge that I have. I don't know, a constant challenge. Because the type of work that I do, I ended up having a lot of issues, with in terms of like mental issue, in terms of ethics, in terms of like what I'm doing, what is the meaning of this work that I'm doing. It's something that you might face at some point. It's like, I'm doing all these articles, I'm doing all this data, however issues are still happening out there. What is the real impact of what I'm doing, right? I mean, and especially because we are now try to focus on specific questions, and just like, maybe I'm just a waste of money. I shouldn't be here, right? Again, this huge fear that we have. So I haven't found this. I'm still struggling to find like, what is that I am doing? What is my contribution overall? I found different answers, but they do not satisfy me. So, and I hope you found yours. But yes, however, I still think research is necessary, and we need to do it, and we need people to do this. So yeah, I have to go. So, but
thank you so much. And I just want to say what you just said. I share it personally. I think we all do. And if
yes,
we weren't, we wouldn't be doing research at all.
exactly.
So.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good to see you all, guys. And yeah, let's chat for the book club. See ya. Cuídense. Adiós.
Chao, abrazo.
Do you guys have 2 more minutes to share?
Sure.
Okay, Bonnie?
Yeah, I think I have my answers, or if Bonnie does, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Oh.
Lindsay.
If she's thinking, got to get it out. So in terms of the most rewarding experience, I know it's a little bit cheesy, but I feel like I have really enjoyed getting to know the other students in the Presidential Fellowship. I am in a interdisciplinary program, so I'm always around people with other interests in the health sciences, but it's still relatively narrow in comparison to the other work that people are doing across Northwestern. And so it's definitely been great to learn more about what other students are doing. And I feel like in order to do the best research, you have to have perspectives from other fields. And so this has been a great opportunity to do that. I also feel like what fulfills me lately is I'm kind of trying to lean into the uncomfortable nature of research. And so I feel like I'm trying to be more comfortable with the things that aren't automatically easy and I don't automatically have an answer to. And so it's been nice to kind of develop that skill. In terms of the biggest challenge, I think it's been staying motivated. I'm really diving into the dissertation phase of my work, and people equate a PhD with, they ask the question, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And I feel like that's what we're doing every day, is just taking one tiny, tiny little step at a time and realizing that it's going to pay off at the end, and being comfortable and trying to stay fulfilled with those little tiny pieces that will add up to something good at the end.
Thank you. Thank you. Bonnie?
Yeah, so mine's probably also a little cheesy. So I really found my home at Northwestern with other people who are kind of involved in Indigenous studies from all different departments at the university, graduate students and faculty. And once started connecting with people in the Colloquium for Indigenous and Native American Studies and the Center for Native American and Indigenous Research. It was really, first of all, exciting to see those initiatives grow at Northwestern and be a part of that, but it was also really helpful for me to connect my work to communities outside the institution, to see how be with other people who were all working on seeing how this plays out outside the institution together. So that's been really helpful for me, especially because, and this ties into the things I still find challenging, is I'm right at the end of my dissertation. I'm defending on May 4th, and I'm on the academic job market, and I'm exhausted. So to have the community that supports you, the people you know who have your back, and to be able to see the inside, that glimpse at the end of the tunnel and push through to that, that's a challenge, but with community surrounding you, you can do it.
Thank you. Thank you. Luis?
First of all, I apologize for some weird sounds. I live in a very old building, so the radiators are like constantly making contemporary music. So if you hear some weird things, it's that. So one of the things that have been really, I mean, there are many things actually, like being a PhD student at Northwestern is being wrapped in so much privilege and so many resources. And I mean, it's really great and privileged from most perspectives. So I feel very happy just to be able to be, paid for reading and for writing music. And that to me is by itself is like crazy good. I've also really enjoyed meeting people from almost everywhere in the world and from very different backgrounds. And that's especially true for like in the graduate program at Northwestern. There's people from, I don't know, very interesting people in general. And that has been great. Also, I mean, one of the biggest parts of that has been the Presidential Fellowship. I've really learned a lot from all the people that I've been in contact with. And yeah, also the possibility of making music with all, like, I don't know, different collaborations, some collaborations that I never expected would happen with scientists, for example, or things like that. So that was one. I'm sorry, the other one was the challenge.
Challenge, yeah.
The challenge. So many. I guess.
Just one.
Yeah. To me, the biggest challenge has been to be able to manage or work being in different mental and physical states, like throughout this process, being like physically here and physically in other countries, mentally here, mentally in other places, mentally doing my work at Northwestern, mentally doing my work outside of Northwestern, and mentally not doing. So I think all of these states are actually not that easy to balance out, right? It's really not easy to always try to be being in the middle point between all of them, trying to not be too harsh on oneself, but at the same time trying to demand the best from you. So I would say balance has been probably the biggest challenge, and I guess that's it for life in general, maybe.
That's life in general. Well, thank you so much to all of you. I'm just gonna add one thing that fulfilling for me that nobody has mentioned, but I'm sure you share. It's teaching. I've had some great teaching experiences with Northwestern students, and because they're smart, because they want to learn a lot. In my experience, it's been the best teaching experience I've ever had. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I share that.
I knew you would. Well, thank you so much. I'm sure that our students will appreciate your time and insights. If you guys don't have anything else to share, we can end the meeting here. Yeah? Okay. Well, yeah, this has worked great with the technology and everything. Thank you for being flexible too. And you have a great evening.
Thank you. You as well,
You
Maria.
as well. Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
You too.
Wash your hands.